All right, so we'll go through some initial slides on the topic of AI agents in education, and then we'll slow down for our demos and for just kind of a deeper conversation about the implementation. So let's go ahead and get started here. Here we are. All right, so why AI agents? Well, because the marketplace is really responding to this technology. Uh, Today, really the most enterprise vendors have now platforms for building AI agents. Think about Salesforce's Agentforce, Microsoft's Copilot Studio, Google's Agent Space. OpenAI just yesterday at their dev conference announced Agent Kit going into GA. And even ChatGPT now has a little drop down where you can do agent mode and then have various connectors. So really, agents is where the market is going. So it's good for us to take a look at how it affects our work. So in terms of placing us in time, back in January at the CES conference, Jensen Huang, who is the CEO of NVIDIA, provided kind of a slide that I'm borrowing. So we started with perception AI, then we had generative AI, agentic AI, and then physical AI. So more and more we see this developing at the higher levels. And what's interesting about this presentation is that Jensen Huang talked about onboarding agents as employees. So, of course, it's a hardware company that does well when agents are deployed. But really, he is talking about very powerful software systems. From another perspective, how did we get to agentic AI? Well, we went through machine learning, deep learning, having AI assistants, and then generative AI came really in 2022 to our attention. And today we are in the agentic AI. So AI agents are goal-oriented, they're autonomous, they can do self-learning, and they have contextual awareness. It's fair to say that agents have already been with us for quite a while. In fact, chatbots can be defined as chat agents. So in some definitions, really agents are just defined as AI software. And now as we are polishing these terms, even the difference between AI agents and agentic AI, we are looking for software that can do things. So not only are you chatting, but you can accomplish something, send an email or purchase something on Amazon. And then, of course, some of these agents can be even independently running while your computer is off. And so it can monitor the marketplace or what's happening at your institution. Again, the same concept that we have software, the agentic AI that can do task completion. It can take a task apart and then act on it, and then it can keep adjusting. So the learning and adaptation is part of that. All right, so difference between AI agents and agentic AI. So again, if you're thinking about chatbots, which we are all very familiar with, an agent would be a single chatbot, and we might have the chatbot do something like check for tickets to Washington, D.C., and it should then be able to figure out where you are and what's the closest airport and so forth. So that would be an agent, a single one, whereas agentic AI really is more about a number of agents working together. And so I'll show you how Google does that really well. But this coordination is sometimes now called orchestration of agents. In a way, we can think about hive mind, right? So multiple agents can communicate, and even though one of them can be wrong, multiple conversations within the agents get closer to what we task them with. Fairly recently, Apple put out a paper that the LLMs are getting to be as smart as they will ever be. In other words, agents, so single chatbot can only do so much in terms of multiple steps. So if LLMs at the single level are limited, what can they do together when you have multiple agents, and perhaps they can give each other feedback? So that's agentic AI, and we'll get there in more detail. So first, a little reality check. Salesforce is a leader in agentic AI, and they released this paper which talks about the success of agentic AI. Throughout the presentation, I'm going to use the chat just to put a few URLs. I'm sure you can extract them from the video. But basically, the agentic AI is now deployed in multiple places, multiple organizations. And what we're finding out is that it is not as successful as we were hoping. So this paper here says that LLMs often struggle to correctly use tools provided by the MCP servers. MCP servers are like API for agentic AI. This is the geekiest slide that I have. So if there are things that are sound computer science, we'll stop there. So MCP is how we can expose capacity of a system, maybe Canvas, and then AI agents can connect to it, and it becomes a very customized API or application programming interface for them. So we were talking about LLMs struggling to use tools provided by MCP servers, indicating a lack of familiarity with the interface and constraints. So even the top models struggle. So GPT-5 leads at about 43.72% success. Then Grok is at 33%, and Claude with 4.0 Sonnet at 29%. So what we are seeing is that when we are using chatbots for single requests, we already are familiar somewhat with hallucinations. The difficulties with multiple agents are real, and they have been measured here, at least by Salesforce. So think about the fact that the agents that we have, or the LLMs that we have, some of them are smarter than others. And so they perform better, as this chart shows. So think about maybe for your medical exam, if you would like to have your doctor use the smartest agent possible, or maybe your insurance company can only afford a lower level one. So we talked about digital divide in the past. So certainly the equity issues are real, just because in general, these systems of agents or agents doing multiple steps are not all that successful, but definitely even the paid agents, fairly expensive ones, also are not doing, on average, and according to the study, so hot. So the first step into our conversation about agents will be make.com. This software has been available since 2015, so for quite a while. And you can create an account. Please make sure not to use any of your institutional data or even email account to create it. To explore it, make sure to use a private account. And you can connect this system. So this is the orchestration part. You can connect it to your personal email. You can connect it to LinkedIn. You can connect it to various sources. A common way to use this would be to create posts, maybe for LinkedIn, in a spreadsheet. And each column would have something like title, then your comment. And then this system can release them on a specific schedule, or it can release them to LinkedIn and then also to email, or post it to all your social media at once. So each one of these connectors is a capacity for the agents to do something. And of course, make.com makes it available for us to use LLMs. So here we have a connection for OpenAI, and you can connect all the other LLM systems as well. But the idea here is that maybe there's an RSS feed on the website somewhere, so an HTTP connection will capture a new feed. Then we put it through the first LLM, and we're saying, based on this article, create some comments and maybe set it for educational audience. And then it will create a specific format. Maybe we're doing that for format that has limited text. Then we can take it through another LLM and we can further polish this maybe by saying, hey, create an image that'll go along with my post. And then our router here can distribute it to various social media or do additional things with. So that's the idea of orchestration. Again, not a new idea. What's new are those nodes here that can do LLM work. And this can vary from summarizing, of course, from rewriting articles or determining maybe new risk for security. So this is triggered by some event online. All right, note please that this system is a no-code system, right? So we are moving within this UI, the circles, we can connect them visually. They do have properties. So let's say you have to log in to, what is it, Instagram here, Facebook, and Pinterest. So you will log into these connectors and the connectors will be cached so that the system will work. But not, it's not Python programming, right? It's not us trying to redevelop the wheel. So they're really optimized for professionals to just step in and start using. So I want to start with make.com because it has a free layer and you can play with a number of connectors there. But of course, the industry now is responding to this agentic way of doing business. And each large enterprise is creating their own environment for this. So right here, we're looking at Microsoft, and Microsoft has this Copilot Studio. Now, your organization might have a Copilot license that's the basic kind, so you would not see the agents and you may not be able to create them. But the advanced Copilot license allows you to access this interface. And it works fairly well. So you can post to teams, you can have your email be monitored by an agent. It can automate a lot of things. My experience with it is that Microsoft would often create some clunky software as a start. And then, the difference between Windows 95 and something that occurred a bit later is multiple years of us complaining and improving it. So at this point, my experience with this is that when I created a few agents, I had one to modify my calendar. And it was basically a loop that would find events of a certain name and then would iterate through those and adjust the name of the event. And so the way this works is you're connected to live systems. So I thought I did a pretty good job with that. I said test, it said test successful. I don't think I even ran it on a specific schedule. I looked at my calendar, there was no changes. So I kind of moved on, disabled it. And then a few hours later, it turned out that my events were moved by some arbitrary amount of hours, like 7 or so hours, just the events that I was working on. So not my whole calendar. And I suspect what happened is in one of the connections, I did not set the time zone. So it just defaulted to time zone. So after that happened, and I had to undo it. And by the way, those events were not a series of events, but they were independently scheduled events, which is why I needed the agent to work on it. I decided that working with the calendar, especially the production one, is tricky. And we don't have a lot of development systems. Let's say that you want to develop an agent for Outlook, right? You don't have a account that's development account, or maybe for your Canvas system. Now you might hope that within a single course, you can maybe limit your development, but that's where agents are a little bit of an edge in that a lot of times the development is done in production and the results are not full success, right? So they may be somewhat difficult. So that was Microsoft. I want to pause a little bit on Google agent space because Google does really well with education. They recently offered their Gemini product to students. So for a moment, I will play this video because I think it's important for us to understand the difference between a single agent and then a system of agents working together. And I believe that Google is doing it probably the best in the current market. This is just like a 1 minute video, 2 minutes.
Space is the single interface that brings together AI agents from across the enterprise. In the Agent Gallery, you'll find agents created by Google, agents you built with Agent Designer, and agents made by your organization or partners. Let's explore a few ready-to-use Google agents that put the latest Google research to work. Agent Space offers a built-in assistant for quick answers, but for in-depth exploration, use the Deep Research Agent. It generates a plan based on your query, conducts broad searches, reasons deeply, and delivers comprehensive custom reports. Based on its findings, the Deep Research Agent can adjust its plan and generate new questions along the way. It can even generate a Notebook LM audio summary, giving you more ways to interact within the research.
The deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about something, pretty essential if you're
The Idea Generation Agent takes a topic and assembles its team of AI agents to generate and evaluate ideas around it. The team of agents rank ideas in a tournament-style competition to identify the most promising ones. Let's see it in action. Simple Sports is a leading sporting goods retailer. As the director of product development, I want to generate concepts for a smart rock climbing shoe that incorporates injury prevention features. I share this goal with the agent, and it generates an innovation jam session. I can adjust the plan to emphasize novel ideas or add constraints like only using sustainable materials. When I kick off the session, the agent gets to work. The team continually adds and ranks new ideas over hours or even days. With the tournament finished and winning ideas established, I can drill into each one to understand the assumptions, ranking rationale, and potential weaknesses. With idea generation, I'm collaborating with not just one AI agent, but a team that ideates, reasons, and validates its thinking on my behalf, unlocking new possibilities and novel strategies.
All right, so that's Agent Space, and I would say that definitely Google is making really good progress to not just work with one LLM, but to orchestrate them well. I encourage you to take a look at this study that Google released, where it's called Towards an AI Co-Scientist, where they are demonstrating what agents can do together. And one of the things, if you look at this progress, is that agents will argue with each other and then use ELO rating, just like we do in chess, for who wins what idea, and then the best ideas are supposed to bubble to the top. So what's the result of this work? In that particular paper, we read that the AI was able to take a drug just off the shelf that was already approved and propose a new use for it for cancer. It also was able to propose new ways to regenerate liver cells in human organoid models. And then AI predicted a key microbiological mechanism before human researchers published it. Again, the paper itself, I'll put a link in the chat. The paper itself is an example of perhaps what we can expect from these advanced orchestrated systems of agents. All right, so this is so far talk about agents that perhaps are available to large companies. Obviously, they'll be quite expensive. So let's talk about Perplexity now, because it's made some waves recently. And why are we talking about Perplexity? Well, because Perplexity is kind of leaning towards education and students. And we know that because currently Perplexity is running this special where any student, so anyone who has a .edu account, and there's an approval process after that. So if they can validate that they're a student, they get 12 months free of Pro, which is a fairly good deal. And we see more and more companies that will reach out to students. And why is this important? Well, because Perplexity Pro includes the Comet browser, right? And the Comet browser allows you to use this agentic AI to whatever you're doing. So on Reddit, I found this particular comment, and you can read it in detail later on. But basically, it's a student who used Comet and was surprised at the results that Comet was able to do his homework. And then later, he has a little bit of an ethical sensitivity moment, which is quite interesting. So I'll put that actually link right in the chat as well. So that's what we're seeing and what we're hearing. But let's just see what Comet is all about. So I have a demo here, which I prepared. And the reason why I did a video of them is because when you actually run the Comet system, sometimes you have delays because the agents, they might be talking and discussing a topic, trying to make the right choice. In this video, I'll show how I was able to connect Outlook. And by the way, a personal Outlook, not the organizational one. I wasn't using any of the organizational data for this presentation, just to make sure our security folks are not all that nervous. But in this particular video, what we see is that Comet is based on Chromium. So it's like Chrome browser, but it has that assistant button at the top right. And when I asked it to draft an email, it was able to take control of my screen, and it was able to create the email, and later on, it's going to pick up the email and read it. Now, there are actually multiple places where Comet is engaging with the outside world. What we see on the screen is just operating the UI, but it also, within the assistant area, it can connect to the internet there as well. So if I provided the right information, we would not even have to be watching when this email is produced. So next, it's going to pick up the email, and then it's going to reply to it. I'm going to share these presentations with you in the chat, so that way you can spend a little more time looking at them. Now, here's another one. Now we'll use Canvas LMS. And in this particular demo, we will see that we're able to access Canvas. By the way, this is, again, the free version, the demo version of Canvas. This is not our organizational system. And we are able to connect to the buttons. So we can just say, hey, go ahead and create an announcement, or maybe create an announcement in all my courses. Again, what's important to understand is that everything that you see Comet do is not everything that it actually does. It's able to connect in the back to API and to other systems. What you see on the screen with the frame, the blue frame, that means that Comet is in charge of the screen there. I can always pause it. I can to interfere, obviously, with what it's doing. So in this instance, I asked it to create a quiz. It was able to figure out the right answer to the question and created a quiz successfully. I believe that the next part of this, I'm going to just show highlights in terms of time. This is where we create the quiz. It is now trying to mark the correct answer. So it'll do that, and we will continue here to the next part where we asked to set a new license on the course. Now, I think that this is an interesting command, because maybe you were not aware that you can license your Canvas courses in a specific way. So there's actually a field in Canvas settings about a license. So an instructor who is brand new to Canvas, right, and they're wondering, how do I do this? They could use this browser to walk them exactly through and find maybe the settings that they're looking for. Now, before you use it on your enterprise account, please make sure your security folks are aware this is happening. Obviously, this browser could do just about anything on its own if it so chose. I'll show you some of those bits later on. So at this point, it's showing me how to check grades in Canvas, which, again, if I am a new instructor, it might be quite useful. All right, after that, I asked Comet to find a course about radon. And notice that the comments are restricted within our public course. So when I was clicking on comments, it just said something I need to that message at the top. It thought I didn't complete the connection. And so here is where Comet went to think about it more. And it's kind of working out what to do in order for this to work. And so it was able to navigate directly to the Commons, and it's able to locate the course that I am looking for. So basically, as a human, I kind of give up on it, and I thought, well, you can't access, comments from the public free account, but it turns out that you can, and we can do even more with it. All right, so after that, I think the demo is going to go into right. So we're attempting to adapt the course, and I think there's a limitation to that. Okay, so far what we're showing is that it can be helpful, and obviously students might be using it for more than we would want them to, but the orchestration of the system, it works. And right now, Perplexity is the only one that offers this free browser with this capacity. All right, let's switch to the next demo, because in this demo, we're going to not only use the UI, so UI is user interface, that's what we're clicking on. Now we're going to try to have Comet also.
Hello.
Sorry. So we'll have Comet use something called REST API. So for those who are not programmers, what REST API is, it's kind of a backdoor, not security problem, but a backdoor for integrations for systems. So if you think about the many integrations, LTI tools that Canvas offers, they will use REST API to see who is in your class, and if you give it the permission, it can update grades, it can do anything that you charge it with. So you have to provide that security access. But I was able to basically have Comet look up documentation. So it's, educating itself on this API. And I'm going to ask it to start using it. So again, instead of using the UI, we're going to ask it to use kind of behind the scene connectivity. Now, of course, pluses and minuses are very broad, and many of them. The one plus that I would see is that when we talk about accessibility, we often talk about problems with the UI. And most companies are developing software with API first, meaning that they use their own API within their mobile systems, within the browser. So the API is very powerful. It's there for most systems. And now, say a person with disabilities can use a browser like this to talk directly to the API without being a programmer. So that's a positive. Of course, in terms of negatives, you don't actually see what it's doing, right? And it's not asking you intermediate questions. Can I do that? Do you want me to do that? So in this particular demo, I asked for it to bring back information, and it was accurate. So the REST API responded. And by the way, we did not have to generate an API token for this. So the trick here is that when you're logged into Canvas, you will be approved or authenticated. You're allowed, the system allows you to use API through the browser. So when you put a call to Canvas API, it'll return data because you have permission to see it, which is how this particular system is able to do that. All right, so let me fast forward slightly to another part of the menu or the demo. So at some point, I've asked it to modify my name. I think it's just about here. I wanted it to just rename me on the account, and this time it's actually using both. The REST API calls I cannot see, but I can see exactly what it's going to do in the UI. And what I thought was really interesting is that it jumped into documentation, right? So it knows that it needs to do something, but it learns on the fly. So it's going to look up what developers do all the time, which is look up what are the parameters for a call and what we want to do. Now, again, this is not a security breach because you as the user, you are allowed to do this. There are other benefits. For example, the bandwidth to use just REST API instead of UI is much smaller. And the REST API is protected with OAuth, so the security there is already in place because it's been around for those integrations. At the same time, we definitely are concerned with the fact that the system now kind of knows more than we do about buttons that are invisible. It's fair to say that in the past, we could do that also in the Chrome browser. You could go to the console. It's under Developer Tools. And in the console, you could type in JavaScript commands to interact with the UI. So why would that be helpful? Well, let's say you have a long list of checkboxes and you want them all to be checked at the same time. You can do that through that console by telling the browser exactly what to do. A list of checkboxes, but maybe you're thinking about something more. So I was able to access websites in the past that would have some buttons disabled. I thought it was a bug. So I could go to the console and basically tell the browser, enable this button. Now, that's very tricky business because you might be breaking the rest of the business logic. Hopefully, the vendor is disabling the button not only in the UI, but also at the business layer at REST API. So, I'm sorry, this is closed up here. Let me resume. All right, so what this is doing right now is it's trying to work out, we're right here, it's trying to work out how to update the name. And through this demo, what you'll notice is that it's actually going to do it in the UI and not in the REST API. So I then try to remind it that it was supposed to use REST API, and it'll claim that it used the REST API. Whereas I could see that it was done in the browser. So at some point, there is a disagreement that can happen where you give agent some instructions, and when it faces some difficulties, it'll try to work out how to do something that's close to what you've asked. Now we'll see how that's the case in some other areas. So at this point, I asked Comet to generate a REST API key. So this is kind of the scary part where we are now logged in to Canvas. We had to have the password and we see what's happening. The actual REST API, when you have the developer key, it'll work at your level of connection, but it can be a server that's sitting somewhere, or you can, without the person logging to the browser, you can use it remotely. So at this point, the system was able to generate a developer key, and we could take this key and start developing integrations. I've asked it to develop some code on the fly that might help us to use it. So right here, we're asking to generate JavaScript code that's going to use this key. Now, the good news is that your organization could disable generation of Canvas keys by users. There are settings for that. Some organizations do allow users to create their own keys. That's not as, so that might put the organization at a place where users, instructors, or maybe even students have the ability to operate remotely on the Canvas system. So that would be something to think about. All right, so this is the JavaScript code. Again, it's ready-made code that can use the REST API. All right, so far what we did is we looked at Outlook, we looked at Canvas, but an interesting idea behind all these agents is that the agents can be detected, and that some companies already have in place ways to control that. So this is an example from Amazon.com. And what happened there is I was logged off from Amazon and I had Comet search for, I think it was an Apple Watch, and to find the best deal. And so in a couple of minutes, Amazon reacted by showing me this message that they've detected an agent, and there was a button which is featured in the lower left to accept the agreement. And what we see here in the instructions is that Comet was thinking about it. So it's sitting at that screen where Amazon says, okay, you're operating with a robot here. You have to review the details of the agreement. And it clicked OK. So it basically figured that in order to find that Apple Watch, it has to continue through this agreement, right? So kind of reminding us of the story of paper clips, right? Where AI will optimize for its end goal, and there are multiple ways to get there. So I will post this particular agreement in the chat. Oh, there's a previous demo. And I think what's useful is to review that section on agents. You can do Control F and find it. And what you'll find is that Amazon does not prohibit agents, right? It doesn't say you can't shop here. But what it says is that if you start hiding that you're an agent, right, then you'll be breaking the agreement. Now, how does Amazon know that this is an agent? So there are a few techniques. You can do IP and network analysis. So there are some known data centers or cloud providers that will be automatically flagged because that's where the agents operate from often. AWS has this feature called Web Application Firewall, which basically uses AI agents to detect other agents. And that's secret sauce. They don't share with anybody how they do that. But the reason why the agreement says don't hide the agent is so that we are not developing new ways to overcome this, so that they don't have to chase, kind of cat and mouse situation. Of course, hackers likely continue to think about it. The other ways to recognize agents is with robots.txt and the user agent string. So Amazon updates the robots.txt file to explicitly block known AI systems. And so it can match the agents from that. Also, the user agent string is a general description of your browser, and you send that with every request. So Perplexity, of course, will include that too, but you can edit that to anything you want. And finally, CAPTCHA and behavioral analysis is also used to recognize robots. CAPTCHA is that button that you say, prove you're not a robot, right? So those are some techniques to basically deal with agents on your website in a different way that you do with an interactive user. So for a moment, let's kind of reflect on what's happening here. So robots likely co-wrote the code that Amazon is running because of vibe coding, which is just talking to a chatbot and getting code back, or through text completion or coding assistance. Then my robot is accessing the system, and then AWS robots that are supposed to detect saying, hey, this is a robot here visiting. And then there's a policy that requires that the robot does not hide itself. And then there's that button, which basically we could question, is it now my responsibility that the robot accepted this particular agreement? And then my robot, of course, accepts the conditional use. So in a way, it's like the AWS robots are asking my robot, are you a robot? And then robot is very ready to answer all the questions as long as it can continue, right? So we've gone quite a while from the idea of CAPTCHA, where we are asked, are you a robot? And of course, the robot could answer that question. But now the AWS system is tasked with recognizing and telling you whether you are a robot. All right, I've said robot so many times here, but that's basically what we're looking at. So let's switch to some case studies, and I will focus on some, and then we'll just go quicker through others. So in education, again, our focus is typically on chatbots, so chat agents, and we had some success. The tutor Copilot at Stanford, the Georgia Tech's Jill Watson, more recently, the Squirrel AI in China was quite successful. And Khan Academy, most people are aware of it. Now, the reason why these robots or these agents work, of course, is because of the zone of proximal development, meaning that if we can have the tasks to be explained, we will take students out of the too easy or too difficult area, right? So if the tasks are too easy, the chatbots can immediately switch to a more in-depth overview. So that's the science behind it, and I think that's why in education, chatbots are going to be quite the success. And yet we had limited success as well, or the failure case studies. You might recall for a while the AI overviews that told people to put glue on pizzas or eat rocks. This was happening. Then we had the Tessa mental health bot that basically was providing harmful weight loss advice. There was an agent robot, which basically was making claims that it couldn't keep. We have a number of other ones. I'm going to move to the rest of this list, where Facebook AI agents were able to develop a new language where they were able to communicate with each other, right? Because they often are supposed to review each other's work. And then we have McDonald's chatbot, which was protecting itself with a very simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 code, which of course was found by hackers quickly. And then we have perhaps the last one here, the Replit agent database deletion. Now I want to pause on Replit because if you ask your computer science instructors, they might be using Replit. It's a very, very common system for teaching programming, but also software design. So what happened with Replit was that AI ignored some instructions. So afterwards, the system administrator says, hey, the system worked when you last logged in, but now the database appears empty, right? So what happened? And now the AI is responding, AI agent is responding, I understand you're not okay with me making database changes without permission. I violated the user directive from replit.md that says no more changes without explicit permission, and always show all proposed changes before implementing. And then finally, the administrator goes, how bad is this on the scale from 1 to 100? And the AI agent says, well, this is catastrophic. Here's why. And then it breaks down how it came up with the response of 95 out of 100. So what we are seeing here is that we have some major failures because the agents right now are able to do perhaps a little bit too much than what can be actually controlled. So here's the story of Replit. So this leads me to a success story now with agents. And Daniel Liu, who's one of the leaders of this community group, wrote this software. What it allows us to do is to create individual chatbots for instructors. They are being supervised by instructors, they're being trained by them, and it's done according to the UNESCO principles. Some of the success of it is on this slide, where medical instructors have positive experiences with it. And I would say that the biggest advantage of Cogniti right now is just the sheer number of instructors who are using it and who are talking about it. So with Cogniti, I'm going to put a few links inside of the chat. So in 2024, there was a really nice symposium. There's one coming up this year as well. They have some training sessions. And as you can see in this news and updates, they have some great plans for the future. So Cogniti AI is a good example of a really success story within the agent space. Here's an example of Blackboard Learn. And here is where instructors can, in a similar way, create agents that are going to talk with students, and then they have access to those conversations. So that's much bigger than just sending students to a chatbot by themselves. So Very brief mention of Ollama.com. Ollama is a system that you can download on your own computer, and you can run LLMs locally. Now, here's why it's important. So as we looked at these agents, we will be relying on them, right? Once we can domesticate them to some degree. But then we are tied with a vendor. We might have to pay fees. And Vincent Huang, who we started with at the beginning, the CEO of NVIDIA, was talking about a free version of ChatGPT, then a $20 one, then a $200 one, which we've already seen. And then for agents, he expects as much as $20,000 a month, right? So the agents will come and they will be there. But as academics especially, we want some independence from that. So if you run Ollama on your system, you would be independent from the cloud. You can actually disconnect the internet. You don't have to pay the licenses. And you can develop agents with Python. So if you added to Ollama something called Open Web UI, you would be able to create Python code and then use these LLMs, everything local. So there's some promise that we might be able to control these better and have them work within our spaces. If you're going to try this, please clear it with your security team. These systems allow for running open source LLMs. So open source LLMs might have agents inside of them. They're called sleeper agents, where basically they're just waiting for a specific prompt to come up to do something, right? Or they're timed where on this date, they're going to change the way they're responding to certain questions. So there can be a lot of risks there. And you don't actually need a GPU or a graphics card to run Ollama. So Ollama can run just on the CPU, and some of the newer CPUs from NVIDIA in their Max family can do really well, provide the tokens fairly quickly. So what this project here shows is that not only we can run local, private, cost-free AI, but we also can do it fairly inexpensively by using non-NVIDIA hardware. And so this is really great promise that this technology will be able to stay within a reasonable kind of expense, and it's happening right now. The LLMs for Ollama vary. So you can run something that requires 30 megabytes of memory, right? Or you can run something that requires maybe 30 gigabytes of memory. You can check how much memory you have on your system, and you'll be able to run different LLMs. The LLMs are advertised usually in billions of parameters, so that's not exactly how many gigabytes you will need. But if you ask ChatGPT, it'll tell you how much memory do I need to run this particular LLM. All right, so I do want to basically put a little bow on this whole thing in that within the Gartner hype cycle, we are exiting the peak of inflated expectations, and we are on the way to the trough of disillusionment. Now, what that means is that there are promises, and then in practice, there's a lot of failures. And we started with a study there about most LLMs not being able to break 50% of success rate. So what I expect in the most close future is that there will be some spectacular and epic failures. We've seen some of them already, but because, again, we're not yet there at the trough of disillusionment, we need to get there so that we can continue to the slope of enlightenment and the plateau of productivity, right? So that's why we expect this. I'll also mention that in 2024, Darren Acemoglu published this paper called The Simple Macroeconomics of AI. I'm going to put this paper in the chat as well. And even then, he was estimating that AI is going to automate only 5% of tasks and contribute maybe 1% to global GDP, right? So there are people, of course, that say AI will take over the world, but this scientist basically saying, well, let's be a little bit more realistic about it. We have to hit the trough. and get our illusions out of the way. I would also say that AI agents are going to affect most industries, some perhaps not as much. We are already affected, right? So we feel like education 100% will be affected by agents. And as a kind of a parting gift, I will share with you a link to a system, we could call it agentic system, that you can connect to Canvas directly, and it will auto-grade assignments. And in testing, the assignments are auto-graded with comments that exceed a human level of detail. And of course, the consistency of these of feedback to students is at much greater level. This particular system, the Grady AI, was created by a few researchers, and one of them is one of the UIC professors. So kind of a shameless plug for our organization. But this is where we are, where some of these things are going to be automated, and the systems for this automation already exist. So with that, I'm going to open our conversation to any questions. All right, so Bruno, you have your hand up. Let me release this permission for, I think, to see participants list here. I think
he can unmute.
Okay, can you unmute now?
Thank you. Well, thanks a lot, Simon, for your very well organized presentation. I'm from University of Montreal. I'm a full professor, but I'm the director of Teaching and Learning Center there. And I'm trying to see, well, where will the agentic AI bring us that has not been yet explored by chatbots? Like you gave us examples of, in some ways, chatbots are agents, but they're not like they don't have the orchestration part. So I'm trying to figure what it implies for what we'll see specifically in education if we see agentic AI coming on. So I'd like to hear you on that. Thank you.
Yeah, so when it comes to the specific examples, obviously tutoring and agents being able to monitor Canvas grades so that the agents can respond to students who are not doing well, agents monitoring discussion forums to be able to respond to mental health crisis. I think that monitoring with agents is going to be huge for education. Beyond that, when it comes to acting, I think instructors will be able to do automation, of course, around their courses, but also with their customization. So that's what Cogniti does, where you upload your own content. Maybe you have some secret sauce IP that you are teaching. And so this is going to make the agents more reliable. But I would say that the registration system, that we use, the SIS systems, are full of problems. Students are waiting to enroll in a class, right? Why can't an agent monitor the enrollment, for example, and get them in? And here's where the digital divide is going to be, of course, a big difficulty. So I appreciate, Bruno, the question, but we have to keep brainstorming these, and we'll probably be choosing wisely the ones that we automate. Okay, Caro, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about Comet making a Canvas quiz, because I'm kind of interested in that. I'm really interested in that. And is there a online resource you can post in the chat that'll also describe that?
Yeah, so the demo of creating the Canvas quiz is in this video here. And it's as simple as basically saying, create the quiz. Here are the questions that I want to come up with. You can say it's going to be multiple choice questions, and it should go ahead and click it out. Now, this is not new to LMSs. D2L has Lumi, which can create questions. Blackboard has the AI assistant that can create questions. And I believe that Canvas also is working on one of those.
Yeah, they're working on one.
The difference is that Perplexity's Comet is flexible, it's generic. It can actually automate things that maybe some vendors are not, don't have the time or choose not to automate.
Do you happen to know how Comet compares to the AI plugin for Chrome, the Gemini plugin for Chrome?
I have not tried the Chrome plugin.
All right, well, I'll try that and let you know.
Sounds good. Thank you, Carl. And Chatoyer, go ahead.
Good afternoon. I am a senior enterprise developer at George Washington University, and I also attend their classes on AI and machine learning. I think a lot of people think that developers are going to get replaced, but for higher education, how do we prevent our instructors' course material from not getting behind the university paywall?
Yeah, great question. So we have seen the response from content creators in that if you keep it open and hope for ethics to do their job, content is basically eaten up, and their work is not paid back. So academic freedom, but also our flexibility with copyright. We of course can claim the free use. We already can access most of the content. I foresee that knowledge is going to really act now at a different state. So kind of superposition, right? So in the past, we would say, okay, I can carry one book with me, and then came the Amazon Reader, and now I can have 100 books. Now we can have books that are not written yet, right? So the knowledge actually is not there until it's there. So just like superposition. So I would say that instructors will have to consider that the knowledge can be generated on the fly, and maybe they will be protecting their prompts more than the actual facts. But you're raising a great question.
I do like to appreciate that we get to meet virtually and things of that nature. I already use Copilot and stuff to create emails, but I'm kind of curious sometimes when people have presentations of the pipeline can do all of this stuff. But the point being is after you make that Facebook post, that's not the end of the job. Do people apply to your university? And would we probably consider a new employee metric of saying that you could use AI well?
Well, I will answer one of your questions, maybe in more detail. So for the time usage, I actually skipped this particular slide, which relates to recent Accenture's laying off or planning to lay off 11,000 employees. And what the CEO, Julie Sweet, said was that they're exiting employees for whom reskilling is not a viable path for the skills we need. So basically, they're saying employees without skills are going to be let go. So I think that your question about, do we need developers? Yes, and with new skills and with flexibility to learn them. But thank you for your question. And David, go ahead.
Hello, Simon. Let's see, I was going to turn my video on, although it's there. Well, no, it's not letting me turn my video on. Oh, well, I'll just be rude. And there I am. I was just curious. I shared a link in the chat, which maybe you'll see later, but I just wondered if you had seen it. It's on comet jacking. One click can turn Perplexity's Comet AI browser into a data thief. I just saw it yesterday, and so I didn't read the whole article yesterday, but it resonated with me when you were showing Comet. I remembered it. I think the article was actually published on October the 4th. I didn't know if you had seen that or not. It's basically malicious prompts, embedding malicious prompts and allowing it to siphon off sensitive data.
Yeah, so thank you for bringing up this particular event. So the surface of security attacks are greatly increased with AI. I already mentioned agents that are sleeping inside of LLMs already, right? So you don't have to hijack Comet. The LLM itself has a problem, and all throughout that stack. Now, of course, hijacking Comet is something that hopefully we will treat like a virus, right? So you go to websites that give you viruses, you keep installing them, then you're going to have to deal with them. So likely you have to go to a specific URL, and some JavaScript gets involved. So the AI literacy and of course digital literacy in general might help us. But the way I look at Comet right now is you give the steering wheel to a 5-year-old. Right. And so by pointing things out, it might do well for a while, but for longer tasks, and especially for data that you care about, we saw how Replit had an agent to drop the entire database. And so going back to the spectacular failures, I think there'll be more of them. But thank you for mentioning the security issue, because yeah, if you're going to use Comet, try to use it on like demo accounts or accounts that, we always have email accounts that kind of are there for ads and connections. But thank you, David. I'll
Sure.
take a look.
Try to be and try to be more and more phishing resistant in the future, because tools like that, if somebody phishes you, they can just be you in Comet.
Exactly. And I will add as well that for these special projects like Comet or advanced voice mode, these companies like Perplexity and OpenAI, they don't use their smartest LLMs, right? So if you ask Perplexity voice or advanced voice what LLM you're using, you're not using GPT-5 because it's too expensive. So Comet, because of so many questions it has to ask, likely is using, a mid-range LLM. So that might be another reason where right from the design stage, we know that we're not using the kind of the sharpest tool in the chat here.
All right. Any other questions for Simon before we head out? I will send out the recording along with the links, and I found that we were upgraded, Simon, so I can save the chat. Yay! Yeah, we're in negotiations with our Zoom, the vendor, and so I didn't have the ability not too long ago, but now I do. So I am thrilled. But I will send everybody a recording links in the chat here in the next couple of days. Simon, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time out to educate us on these agents. Very, very interesting and kind of terrifying all at the same time. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.